In this video, I'll explain how you can use the word list manager for duplicating and filtering word lists. So the words list manager is on the words menu and allows you to do lots of things with the word lists, including viewing them, editing them, combining them, converting them, merging them, and so on. So here I'm just going to focus on duplicating and filtering a list. So there are many reasons why you might want to duplicate a list. For example, you might want to make a copy before modifying it, or making a new word list for use for a particular purpose. For example, if you wanted to then remove words from it when you've used them to make sure you don't use them again. So to make a straight duplicate of the list, I can go to word list, duplicate, filter list, and I can make default 2, and that will just make a straight copy of the list called default 2. If I want to, I can filter this to include only words with particular scores. So the score is used to say how good a word is. So higher scores are words that are preferred when you're filling a grid compared to lower scores. So if you wanted to make a word list that only had really high scoring words, for example, you could restrict to just 50 and include only the high scoring words. Then you'd be guaranteed to have only mainly base words that are quite common. You can also filter by word length if you want to restrict to particular sets of lengths of words. So once you've selected what you want, just do create, and then that's just made a copy of the word list. So you can then manipulate default 2 without changing default, which can be useful if you want to test things or change the list in some way that you then want to be reversible. You finish with a list, you can just press delete and delete the list. So what else can you do with duplicate filter list? Well, let's say I want to use another list to restrict what's in default. So here default is the default word list. NOAD is an optional word list contained with the New Oxford American Dictionary add-on. Now I might be making for Puzzle for a particular magazine, and their requirement is that all words should be in NOAD. So how do I restrict the default word list to be only words that are in NOAD? Well, you can do that using duplicate filter list. So here, let's make a list called default NOAD. So what I want to do is I want to include only words that are also in the NOAD list. So by default, that is entirely punctuation and case sensitive. So words with different capitalization will be treated differently. If you want to ignore capitalization and punctuation, you can check equivalent words here, or to do things in a way independent of that. So if I click create, that will make a new list now restricted to only words that are also in NOAD. And you can see now I have a new list which has slightly fewer words than the original list because not all words in the default list are in NOAD. So let's delete that when you've finished with it. Another thing you might want to do is look at changes between lists. So the Word Web Dictionary add-on is updated from time to time, adding new words. So here I've got Word Web, which is the Word Web Pro 9.05 word list. That will be default installed when you install Word Web Pro 9.05. I've also got a copy I made using duplicate filter list a while ago of Word Web 9.0. Now, if I wanted to see what new words have been added to Word Web since Word Web 9.0, I can do that using duplicate filter list. So now I want to find the Word Web new words. And now I want to include words also in Word Web 9, except that now I don't want to filter to restrict words that are in Word Web 9. I want the complement of that. I want the words that are not in Word Web 9. So if I select words not in, that will duplicate my Word Web list, giving me only words that are not also in Word Web 9. And again, I can click equivalent letters if I want that to be done in a case insensitive and punctuation insensitive way. So if I click create, that will give me a new list called Word Web New, which says that there are 181 words that were added between these two things. So for example, you could use that to identify new words you might want to add to your main word list. So clearly lots of these are inappropriate for a standard crossword word list. But if you go down, you will find some words that might be quite useful jollof rice, micro-target, nowcast, physically distance, and so on. So that's how you could use duplicate and filter list for restricting a list to being a subset or difference with respect to another list. You can also do this with multiple word lists at once. So for example, if I go to duplicate filter word list and I wanted to make a word list that contained the words in default and were also in both the New Oxford American Dictionary and Chambers, I can select them both. To do that, just hold down the Control key and select the second list as well, and that would then filter to restrict to both of those lists. The other features in duplicate filter list allow you to match to a pattern. So if you put a pattern in here, that will have the same effect as filtering with a pattern in here. So for example, if I wanted words ending in YSE, because I've done a British English installation here, the default word list contains words with British spelling ending in YSE, and this gives you the list. If I wanted to make a word list containing all these YSE ending words, I could put that star YSE in here, and that would make a copy of the word list just containing those words. Likewise, replace can be used to replace some text with another text. This can be useful, for example, for making specialty puzzles. So for example, if I wanted to replace the letters cross everywhere with an X for making a specialty puzzle, that would systematically replace those letters where they appear one after another with the letter X. And I could then use the new word list for building a puzzle, and then everywhere where there was originally a cross, you get an X. So for example, you get words like X word in the grid, Xing for crossing, and so on. And that's about it for what you can do with duplicating and filtering lists. Obviously, there are lots of permutations here of different types of filtering you might want to do, depending on what you're trying to achieve.